if they play to their potential, it's a cakewalk. But that's not the way baseball is played. There's too many bad hops and drop balls and strikeouts and walks and stealing bases. There's too much going on in a game to have these guys just walk through everything. Definitely, when the Braves play the Dodgers in any kind of series, most of the baseball world will be watching them.
Yeah, and we talk about, and this is the thing I don't like by any stretch of the imagination, is it's opening day, and there's one game visible on linear television. There's one. That's it. There's one game that you can watch on linear television. That's going to be Chicago at Texas, the Chicago Cubs at the Texas Rangers, tonight at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Justin Steele versus Nathan Eovaldi. And the other game, the Yankees at the Astros, is on ESPN Plus, which is not on linear television. Nothing else is on linear TV. So if you don't have MLB, the ticket, if you don't have that, you're going to miss out on all these games. So it's like, yay, it's opening day, and I can't watch it. And, to me, that's frustrating. These games need to be on television. They need to be shown more. Granted, it's the return of the NCAA tournament, the men's Division I. The men's Division I basketball NCAA tournament coming back tonight with teams playing in the Sweet 16. And, of course, my coverage of that can all be seen on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure that you check out our NCAA tournament playlist, which has my conversations with student athletes and coaches around the entire country, coast to coast, north to south, last season and this season. So you can check out those videos. We're going to be airing some more today as well. So, the NCAA tournament's going on for men's and women's, and I know that that's huge. But, PJ, probably my biggest gripe with Major League Baseball is that I'm so excited that today's opening day, but how do I celebrate opening day? The only game I can watch is the Cubs at the Rangers. That's it. So, it's like, yay, it's opening day, but none of this stuff is on television. There's games at 3 o'clock. There's multiple games. More than half the day is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, around 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Then there's 3 games that start a little bit after 10 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. And the excitement of opening day is met with the fact that only one of those games is on linear television.
Yeah. To start something today, if you'll agree to it, I'm going to highlight some teams that are very good on paper and who probably should continue going forward and win their divisions. Certainly not all 30 teams like I did for 3 weeks in a row, because all you were doing is setting the table.
Yeah.
What I like to do is just go through some teams that are really loaded, that are predicted to win and should win. But, the way I feel about baseball, you win by pitching and defense. And you can have all the sluggers you want in the world, but if you can't hold a run, you're going to lose it. So let me start with the Blue Jays. They're loaded again this year too. Again, they've underachieved the last couple of years. They have a couple baby players, Vladimir Guerrero and Bo Bichette, sons of Major League Baseball, actually Hall of Famers. And they got Kevin Biggio, who Greg Biggio was their father, played for the Astros for years. These guys supposed to be the best of their team to try to pull the rest of the guys in to get a pennant, But they play against the Yankees and the Red Sox in Baltimore, who won it last year, and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay will come up with something, that's for sure. They got Justin Turner this year, who one of my favorite players, played for the Dodgers for years. Now he's a DH, came from Boston. He's going to give them some serious firepower. Their pitching lineup is Kevin Gausman, who is their number one pitcher. Alex Manoah was supposed to start, but got hurt. Got hurt again because his right shoulder soreness. Well, Alec, work out during the summer or the winter, and then maybe you can be able to pitch a little bit better. But I won't say that anymore, right, Daniel? I won't. That's funny. They got the Orioles, who won the pennant last year. They're led by Cedric Mullins, who's a terrific ball player. Center fielder, is in a lot of conversations for most valuable player every year. He leads off. He hits with power. He steals bases. He hits for average. He's got it all. A couple of guys, Adley Rushman and Gunnar Henderson, back him up in the lineup. Those guys score runs, and they will continue to score runs. Now, Baltimore made a real steal this year by signing Corbin Burns, who was a free agent from the Milwaukee Brewers, who was an ex-Cy Young Award winner. So now you got an extra good hitting lineup, good defensive lineup. You got a good pitching staff that won a division last year, and you put a most valuable or a Cy Young Award winner at the top of with Corbin Burns. You got a hell of a team. Baltimore will not go away for sure. I'm going to skip over Tampa Bay, and I'm going to skip over the Red Sox because they're awful, and I'm trying to get to the Yankees. Now, the Yankees will dealt a cool blow. I have no doubt about it because of Garrett Cole not being able to pitch.
Yeah.
But they have an awesome lineup. Lieber Torres, Juan Soto came over from San Diego. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton used to be Mike Stanton. Don't know where he got the Giancarlo from. Anthony Rizzo, Anthony Volpe, Alex Verdugo played for the Red Sox last year. Jose Trevino's the catcher. John Burry came over, plays third base. All those guys can hit. And their best hitter is not playing yet because he got hurt during spring training, DeLemayhew. So DJ is a super player and really runs the whole show. Usually he's in the leadoff spot, but obviously he can't play. So now the pitching rotation, they brought in a young pitcher who's good. He's a little bit of a head case, but he's a little headstrong. Marcus Stroman's got all sorts of talent, but he's a wacko. And he starts out good. Sometimes he'll get in the pickle, blow up, and he won't continue. He was supposed to back up Garrett Cole, who's the best pitcher in baseball, and Nestor Cortez, who's going to start tonight. Their whole season may rest in the time that they play without Garrett Cole. If Garrett Cole has to have serious surgeries done, he's gone for a year, and if he has Tommy John surgery, he won't be ready for 2 years. Yeah. Now you pay a guy $9,100,000 gigundles, and the guy won't be able to pitch. So there's a lot of tension in New York right now. They think everything's fine, hunky-dory. Well, it's not that way. That's for sure. Go to the Central Division, and, you've heard me say the last couple of years that the Central Division in both leagues are awful. Cleveland is really leads the roost. They got one of the best hitters in baseball, Jose Ramirez. For the first time in recent history, we have two brothers playing with each other, Josh and Bo Naylor, excellent players. Ramon Laureano, who is a good hitter. They picked up Shane Bieber, a right-handed pitcher, who was really tough last year. But that's it. I mean, they'll be lucky to be a 500 team. My team that I like in this division is the Royals with Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt signed a $300 million contract. He's only 23 years old. He's a son of Bobby Witt. And Bobby Witt was a super player for many years, and his son is taking over at shortstop, although he's not pitching. Like Bobby Witt was a pitcher. The Royals have a good lineup. They got good hitters: Hunter Renfroe, Salvador Perez, Nelson Velasquez. These guys are good, solid hitters. The rotation is lukewarm. I mean, you got some Michael Wacha that came over from somewhere I can't remember. Brady Singer's a good pitcher. Alex Martin, but they're not. I don't think they're going to get enough outs on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm thinking again. Maybe a 500 team, and you got the Tigers and the Twins. These teams are just. They don't go anywhere. They play 500 ball. Now the Twins, they've got two exciting ball players, and Brian Buxton and Carlos Carrera. Byron Buxton was supposed to be the next Andrew McCutcheon coming up. This is several years ago, and they're still waiting for him to blossom. He's not going to make it. He'll be a good ball player, but not a super ball player. Carlos Carrera, of course, came over from Houston when they had the World Series over there. He's their best player. But other than that, they have a regular pitching stock, and there's nothing. There's nothing there. The White Sox are the same thing, the same way. Luis Robert Jr. is their best player. Anthony Benintendi came from Boston and also came from the Dodgers last year. Good hitters, these guys, Paul DeJong, Dominic Fletcher. But again, they rely on our pitching, and their pitching is fair. There's not anyone that I can talk about that's going to give us any excitement. It's a poor division with mediocre baseball and 500 baseball. So don't be surprised that if we get to the All-Star break and all these teams are fighting for 500. That's the way I look at it right now. The AL West, you heard me bitch all the time about the Angels. I might as well bring them up so I'll get it off my chest. You won't be able to appreciate Mike Trout if you don't have a team around him to play.
Yeah.
Defensively and offensively. They don't have that. Rendon was supposed to come over from Washington, which he did. Supposed to be there for 10 years. Signed him up at $288 million or something like that. Besides, last year, he doesn't know if he wants to play baseball anymore. This is what we heard over the winter about this guy. He may not want to play baseball anymore. I don't get it. All these guys are spoiled. They got Taylor Ward's a good ball player. Aaron Hicks is coming over from the Yankees. Good hitters. The rotation, Tyler Anderson's a good pitcher. Reed Detmar's been around a while. So that's it. I mean, they lose Ohtani. They lose a big part of their offense and, frankly, their pitching. Now, the team is empty. They don't play with any enthusiasm. Just for me watching them a few times, Trout doesn't look like himself. 1 for 3 with a single, or 1 for 4 with a double, or something like that. I mean, it's got to be weighing on him an awful lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if his agent says, "Listen, I'm going to give it this year, and I'm going to do the best I can. But next year, you put me out there, and let's see what we can do." And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. All right, go to the Astros, and they're always loaded because they're a major league team. They're good. They've won World Series. They got Jose Alvarez, Jordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Jose Abreu. These first 5 guys are difficult to get out, no matter what. Then the rest of the guys are just as good. Jake Myers playing in center field now. The rotation is where Houston shines. They got Framber Valdez, who was in the running for the Cy Young Award again last year, but he didn't quite make it. But he's a seriously tough pitcher to hit. Christian Javier's another tough pitcher. Hunter Brown. Then you got Justin Verlander, who's still on the IL from got hurt last year. So if Justin Verlander can start pitching earlier and get into the season a little bit and get him rolling, it could be a different story with Houston. Lance McCullers, who was an excellent pitcher last year, the last couple of years, he's hurt, and he may come back by the middle of the summer. You don't know. Now you go to the Athletics, there's nothing there to talk about. They're just nothing at all. You got J.D. Davis. They got him from the Red Sox. They're going to let him hit the ball, I guess. They got some decent pitching with Paul Blackburn and Alex Wood. Both of these guys been around. One's a lefty, one's a righty, so it's decent. The Mariners lost their best hitter to the Dodgers, of all people. They got J.P. Crawford as their shortstop. He leads off. He's an excellent player. Hits for average, hits for home runs, steals bases, does it all. But they're an also-ran team. Jorge Polanco's a good player. Mitch Garver's a good DH. The rotation, Luis Castillo's a good pitcher, but the rest of these pitchers, our listening public probably doesn't know who they are. So if you don't know who they are, I'm not going to tell you who they are. You have to look them up. You got the Rangers, who were the World Series champions. Now, these guys have got it all, just like Houston. Marcus Semien, who's every year he's mentioned as a most valuable player, comes in second or third or fourth every year, even when he's in Toronto. He deserves an MVP. He just gets beaten out by some guys that have a better year. He's a splendid player. Frankly, him and Corey Seager are the two best players on any team that starts a game off, period. Corey Seager, as you know, what I was saying last year, was my most valuable player because he plays baseball. But that went to Ohtani, so forget about it. With Seaman and Seager, Evan Carter, Adelis Garcia, Josh Jung, Wyatt Langford, all these guys are killers. And they can score runs. The rotation is Nathan Eovaldi, who won one of the games in the World Series, two, I think. John Gray's a right-handed pitcher. However, what they're sitting on are three killers who are on the IR. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Tyler Mahle. All of these guys are still waiting to get off the IL. Now, if these guys can come back, say, the middle of the summer, these guys would be almost impossible to beat. Let's go to the Braves. In the National League now, we'll go to the Braves, and they're loaded, too. And when I say loaded, I'm not paraphrasing here or making this stuff up.
Well, PJ, before you go to the National League, the American League, going from division to division, like PJ said, giving us a breakdown of the teams that he thinks are going to go somewhere and the teams that he thinks may not here on opening day of 2024. Do you have a favorite for the American League, PJ? When you look at the East and the Central and the West, is there a team that you've circled that you think can really have a special season in the American League?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say Texas. I think Baltimore will probably be up there, but I'm not sure that they'll be able to get it all. The Yankees, if whatever happens with Garrett Cole is their season, they should be talked about. They certainly got a murderer's row lineup to hit. But Houston is Houston in Texas, Daniel, and the Rangers they've got it all. And I'd love to see my Angels be up there, but it's not. I like Texas to repeat again this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot. And like you said, with Garrett Cole and these guys just staying healthy. And it's difficult because we talk about, last year people asked me, what's the problem with the Yankees? And I said, the problem with the Yankees is they don't have enough pitching. They have Garrett Cole, and then it's a big old question mark. And now this season, they try to do some things and see if they can get their rotation better. But if they don't have Garrett Cole, then that's their ace in the hole, right? That's Mr. Cy Young. And if you don't have him, what do you have going in to the 2024 season? And that's why you have to have a rotation. We look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I want to make a note about them and what they did this year coming off the World Series, because you just mentioned the Rangers, and you said you like the Rangers to repeat in the American League. In the National League, I had made a statement that the Diamondbacks, a team that I have paid attention to since they came into the league, and I said last year they need a Game 4 pitcher. They didn't have a Game 4 pitcher. When they're in these series, they didn't have a Game 4 pitcher for the postseason. They didn't have somebody to use in rotation during the season. I said they have to go out and get at least one more guy. Well, they went out and got two more guys. And taking a look at this, Jordan Montgomery, who, by the way, for those of you that forgot, pitched against the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series that the Rangers won last season in 2023. He signed a one-year, $25 million deal, and he's 31 years old. He had 32 combined starts last season between the Texas Rangers and the St. Louis Cardinals. He had a 3.20 ERA, 166 strikeouts, and 48 walks in 188.2 innings. He had a 2.79 ERA over 11 starts with Texas following a midseason trade, helping them reach the postseason for the first time since 2016 and win the World Series. And like I said, he had a start against the Diamondbacks in the World Series. Jordan Montgomery was part of that murderous row of pitching that finally got the bats of the Diamondbacks to be more quiet. And so taking a look at this move, That gives the Arizona Diamondbacks Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, who they got on a 4-year, $80 million deal, Brandon Pfaadt, who is coming off of his rookie season, and now Jordan Montgomery is the rotation for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I wanted them to get a Game 4 guy. They got 2 guys. They got a rotation here, and people taking a look at Zach Gallen. Well, Merrill Kelly, at times during last season's postseason, played better than Zach Gallen, and down the stretch, arguably, I think he played better. So between Gallen and Kelly, and then you have Brandon Pfaadt, who is the Game 3 guy, Eduardo Rodriguez comes in, and now Jordan Montgomery comes in. You talk about pitching, and we speak about the Yankees, and what do they have beyond Garrett Cole? Well, the Arizona Diamondbacks, I know you're going to talk about the National League, PJ, but if you're going to talk about the Rangers, let's go to the other side of that World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks. What do you think about their pitching rotation with the additions of Eduardo Rodriguez as well as now Jordan Montgomery right before the start of the season?
Well, it's good. I mean, it's great. I was woken up by, but I'll get to them, and I have a lot to say about Arizona.
Okay.
And I like to talk about them. But let me get through some of these teams that are really extraordinary in the National League. We start with the Braves. What can you say about the Braves? They got hate. I know these are trite comments, but they have it all. They have the most valuable player, Ronald Acuna, Albies, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Marcell Ozuna, Michael Harris. All these guys are first-class players, excellent players. Their rotation, come on now. They have Max Fried, Spencer Strider, who was almost the Cy Young Award winner. Charlie Morton has been around for years. Chris Sale, who was a Cy Young Award winner from the Red Sox that they brought over, and Ronaldo Lopez. If you're a team coming in for a 4-game series against the Braves, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And this isn't even fair. If these guys play up to their potential, and the Dodgers play up to their potential, the World Series champion will be between those two. The Marlins, I'm not going to get into the Marlins at all. They did make one good move this year. They signed Tim Anderson from the White Sox. He's a little bit of a head case, but he's an excellent player. Kicks it at shortstop. Hits just for power and average. Although they got him buried in the lineup, I'm not sure why he's not leading off, but that's up to them. The Mets, well, they got Francisco Lindor and they got Pete Alonso. They got Jeff McNeil, who was a leading hitter a couple of years ago. Starling Marte, who's a fabulous player. Francisco Alvarez. All of these guys are good hitters. Now you got the rotation. They got Luis Severino, the guy from the Yankees and the Phillies. He's going to be in there. But that's it. Jose Quintana. There's not a lot here that's going to blow my skirt up, as Mary T says. The Mets do have Harrison Bader, Bill Gators, playing center fielder for them.
Yeah.
But, the Mets have a distinct advantage to making money because they have a serious cable contract in New York City. And 30,000 people could watch the game, and they're still going to make a ton of money on a cable. So the Nationals, there's nothing there I want to talk about. Joey Gallo's been bouncing around the league for a couple of years. He's their best hitter, and he didn't even hit above the Mendoza line last year. The Phillies are a different story now. The Phillies have Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Alex Bowen, J.T. Realmuto. These guys are all super players and super hitters. Nick Calistanos, Brandon Marsh plays left field, used to be with the Angels. Super hitting team. Rotation, you got Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Both of these guys sign multi-year contracts for millions of dollars, and they're gonna carry everything through. So the Phillies are going to really be matching up with anyone, including the Atlanta and L.A. The Central, I go to my Brewers. What? My Brewers. My Brewers, they give away Corbin Burns. Now, Brandon Woodward's the other Cy Young Award winner they can't get from them. He's hurt. He's not going to play till the middle of next year. He can't pitch. You got Christian Yelich leads off. He's the most valuable player 4 years ago, but is yet to play up to his potential. They get Rhys Hoskins from the Phillies, which he's a good player, good hitter, solid first baseman. Riley Adams is a slick shortstop. They got the hitting, but they're going to be losing at the pitching. And Freddie Peralta pitched a lot the last couple of years. I'm not sure his arm is going to hold up. It's just there's not a lot there. Go to the Cardinals. Besides Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, there's not really a lot to look for. The Cardinals. And you hear me say this a lot, but for some reason, the Central divisions in both of these leagues they're not very good. They're competitive with each other, but they're not competitive against the rest of the leagues.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray was supposed to pitch for the St. Louis, but he got hurt. He's going to be out for the whole year. You got the Cubs signed Cody Bellinger for his 3 years, $75 million on a comeback. They got a good hitting team with Dansby Swanson. The rotation, Justin Steele, Kyle Hendricks is the only guy that can keep pitching with a fastball in the mid-80s. He's unbelievable. He's got a nasty cutter. He's got a changeup that kills everyone. The changeup 70 miles an hour, and guys spin around on the top because they're waiting for an 85-mile-an-hour fastball to take and kill. The Pirates, there's nothing there. I'm glad to see Andrew McCutchen back with the Pirates because this will probably be his last year. A former most valuable player in the National League, and certainly going to be a Hall of Fame inductee. Love him. The Reds, Jonathan India and Ellie De La Cruz are their best players, but they don't have anything else. They got some decent pitching with Frankie Montez and Hunter Green. But these are regular okay pitchers. There's nothing. No one's going to throw a no-hitter with these guys. Now let's go to the West. You got the D-backs. Now, you mentioned Jordan Montgomery, who was a great addition to this lineup. With Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Brandon Stott, those three guys, you put Jordan Montgomery with those guys, and again, if you're a team coming in to play a 3 or 4 game series against Arizona, you'll be able to hit because you're not going to get too many hits with these guys. Zach Gallen impressed me an awful lot last year. He's young, he's tough, goes hard, and frankly, it was him that carried the team.
Yeah.
On the offensive side, you got Corbin Carroll, Betsel Martell is a killer, George Gurriel, Christian Walker, Jock Pederson came from the Dodgers. He's a DH. Can't run too much anymore, but this is a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. I would expect them to be, let's see, I want to be sensitive about this. I want them to be able to compete with the big guys, which are the Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. Now, their pitching has got to carry them. If Jordan Montgomery and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly can hold the line and the kids start hitting, this would be a dangerous team. But until then, you got a lot to look at. You got the Dodgers. Who would want to play the Dodgers? You lead off with Mookie Betts, Ohtani batting second, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, who just signed $140 million, Max Muncy, Jason Hayward used to be with the Cubs. Teoscar Hernandez was Seattle's best player until he came with the Dodgers. Gavin Lux is an excellent second baseman. There's no easy outs with this lineup. Now, when you go to the pitching side, this kid, Yamamoto, you better wake up because he's going to be run right out of the league, although I don't know what they signed him for, $180 million, something like that. But he did not look good in any – I saw him pitch one time, but he's only pitched 3 times, and 2 times it wasn't very good. His fastball is in the mid-90s, but, if you don't have other pitches, they're going to be sitting on fastballs all the time. Tyler Glasnow, who came from Tampa Bay, excellent. Robbie Miller, James Paxton, excellent team, great pitching, great defense. Walker Buehler is still on the IL. He's expected to play midsummer. Remember, he had Tommy John surgery, and you got Clayton Kershaw. So, these guys are loaded. I'm not making this stuff up. People can go read all this stuff. But when you watch these guys play, you'll understand. Go to the Giants, they're just as good right now. They got a tough lineup. Lamont Wade is their best hitter. Jorge Soler, Michael Campardo, Matt Chapman. They got just signed this year, play third base. He's another one of these guys that made $75 million for 3 years. Mikey Yastrzemski, the most famous Yastrzemski is Carl Yastrzemski from the Red Sox 50 years ago. But their pitching is where it shines. Logan Webb, they picked up Blake Snell for $75 million 3 years. Jordan Hicks with Kyle Harrison. Tough team. The reason I say this, Daniel, is that the Arizona is going to be looking up to these guys. If they can play 500 ball against L.A. and San Francisco, they got a shot to duplicate what they did last year. But it's a big project. Big project. And the Padres are sitting back there watching everyone, and they have a hell of a team themselves. Again, the Bogarts came from Boston years ago, and Brian Fernandez, Tatis, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado's from Baltimore. You got Yu Jarvis pitching, Joe Musgrave pitching, Dylan Cease they just got from Chicago White Sox. You know, that's a loaded team also. So your D-backs have got a big road ahead of them. And I'm not going to get into the Rockies because they're not worth talking about either. But, you know, I know I said an awful lot in a short period of time. I hope I wasn't rambling too much, but there's a lot of things that I said were true, and a lot of things that people can watch. It's just unfortunate that you can't watch some of these games on television, and I blame that on the West Coast. You know, if you don't have like what I have, the Major League Baseball channels, you're not going to see any of these guys. How many times do you hear me bitch about not being able to see Mike Trout because he plays in the West Coast?
Yeah.
Well, even with my package, it's still a 9:30 or 10 o'clock game. And hell, I'm reading in bed at 8 o'clock, so that's not going to work. So, you know, you see, there's a lot of teams to see and a lot of excitement, but it's really going to be down to there's only maybe a handful of teams, 7 or 8 teams that really are good enough to carry it all the way.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. You know, you look at the preseason and you look at the teams. You know, you look at a Texas Rangers team and the success that they had last year, and that their pitching was the only pitching to finally quiet the Diamondbacks hitting. And, you know, you have the anticipation for the Phillies and the talent that they have, that the Phillies are going to be able to do some good things and push themselves forward. There's the thought of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and can they get back to the postseason and start to make this a yearly thing? And with adding pieces as well as keeping what they have. And keep in mind, folks, they made that entire run last year without Jordan Lawler. So Jordan Lawler coming up, if he can be a spark for them on top of Corbin Carroll, on top of Gabriel Moreno, on top of Luis Gurriel Jr., you know, there's so much to be said about the hitting that's there, and now the pitching has improved. The Diamondbacks brought back almost their entire team, plus got the pitching, when I said that was the one thing they had to go out and get. So we'll see, you know, what that looks like for them. But, you know, I'm hopeful of the Arizona Diamondbacks, not because I'm a fan in the comfort of my own home, but as an impartial broadcaster. I think that, you know, if you go to the World Series with what you have and then you add more pieces and you help yourself out in pitching, and pitching is the thing that beats you ultimately in the end, that can help them there, you know. And if Corbin Carroll's bat, for goodness sakes, woke up so many times. There were so many guys that stepped up in key situations, including Gurriel, including Moreno, who just wouldn't take himself off. And like I said, Jordan Lawler, the fact that, you know, this guy is still one of those prospects, and in the sports card world, people going after his cards. And, you know, I got a bunch of rookie cards of his. I got some stuff last night at trade night at GG Cards and Breaks. And, you know, the Arizona Diamondbacks having success without Jordan Lawler, bringing him in and seeing what that can be down the road could be even more success for this team, especially if the rotation does what it's supposed to do. And, you know, on the Yankees side of things, there's always high hopes, and on the Mets side of things, there's high hopes. You talked about the weather and how interesting things are when we start this season as early as we do, pre-Easter, and the fact that we're looking at 2 games that have already been postponed. With the Milwaukee Brewers at the New York Mets, that game is not going to happen today. and the Atlanta Braves at the Philadelphia Phillies is not going to happen today. So the 30 teams playing on opening day is not 30 teams, it's 26 because games had to be moved. And we'll see what it looks like as we step forward into Friday and Saturday. But as of right now, the Brewers, the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies don't get to start off their season due to weather. So hopefully things will get better. There's always somebody that's got a tarp on the field at the beginning of the season in the north, and typically someone who's maybe dealing with snow in this early part of the season. So hopefully things will work out there. But there's high hopes for the Mets. There's high hopes for the Yankees. That happens every year. Like I said, with the Phillies, there's the anticipation of what they could be. There's the hope and the anticipation that the Arizona Diamondbacks didn't have a fluke season. The Dodgers spent over $1 billion on just a few players, less than a handful of players. And so what is that going to look like? Is the money going to be worth it, and will it pay off immediately? And with Shohei Ohtani not pitching this year, what is he going to look like when he's out there just hitting the ball and, being a part of the team in that respect, but not helping them on the mound? What does that do for the Dodgers? As well as, like I said, the Texas Rangers that you had mentioned and their come up and what they can be. Can Boston have any type of a resurgence? What are the Atlanta Braves going to look like this season? The Baltimore Orioles had a ton of success last year, but once again could not win in the postseason. So a team that fell down the stretch in the regular season now is falling down the stretch in the postseason. Can they change that? The Tampa Bay Rays playing ball the way that they play ball and not having those big-time contracts. They have guys that get really good and then they go and leave. What is the reload going to look like for the Tampa Bay Rays, and how successful will they be? And the loom of a new stadium coming in the future, and talks about that. The Oakland A's have been entrenched with this will they, won't they? Are they going to Vegas? Are they staying in Oakland? Right now they're in Oakland. What is this team going to be like? What is the fan base going to be like? What is this entire franchise going to do in this kind of state of purgatory, so to speak? They're in this kind of middle pattern of where are they going to go and what are things going to look like. Will a team like the San Diego Padres that has a bunch of names, can they start winning again? Which division's going to show up? It's been the AL and the NL East. Is it now going to be, the NL West? Are we going to see things from the AL West? Will the central divisions on either side find a way to win games? A team that's barely above 500 is a team that's winning the division. We said last year the central divisions were not great, and this year, will they change that? Will they find a way to be better, and will they have some success? What are the Angels going to do? Will they trade Mike Trout, get a bunch of picks, and well, not just picks, will they get a bunch of players and build toward the future? What are the Angels going to look like now that Mike Trout is stranded on an island without Shohei Ohtani? I would imagine, does he want to be there? Is this the place for him? Yeah, he can make a ton of money, and he's going to make that money wherever he goes. Somebody's going to have to pay for something in that contract. But, does Mike Trout, with all the years he's been injured, does he want to spend the rest of his time in Major League Baseball in another place of purgatory, which is with the Los Angeles Angels? So there's a lot of questions going into the 2024 season. There's teams that are expected to win every time, like the Mets and the Yankees, and there's teams that you anticipate what can they be when it comes to the Rangers and the Diamondbacks, as well as the Padres and the Dodgers. And then there's that Phillies team that has a lot of expectation, like I spoke about. And then there's some of those teams, can they come up? Can they find a way? Is what, who's going to be the team this year who's going to go on a run and just have a strong start and then be able to continue that? Will the Mariners find their way into the postseason? What about the St. Louis Cardinals? Can the San Francisco Giants do anything now that they've signed Blake Snell? There's a lot of question marks, and that's the excitement of it, because today's opening day, and we take one step forward toward the future that PJ has laid out for us here in our opening day special here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So, with that being said and the questions being had, we are going to take a step aside. We'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I got some NFL stuff to get into as well with Papa Joe here where sports meets life. So stay with us, and thank you for being here all around the world on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, Monday through Friday, with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, airing 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time live worldwide. We'll be back after this fast break. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, located on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is open 7 days a week right off of Teal Ave. You'll find GG Cards and Breaks there for you Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. We just had Trade Night, which is monthly, happening at GG Cards and Breaks, sometimes on site in the store and other times at the Wildcat Sports Pub, which I'm very excited about those opportunities as well. You've made history with us at Trade Night. Last night, I had a great night wheeling and dealing and seeing all different fans of different fans of different teams and all different ages is really, really cool. And, I get to sit there and make a trade with a kid who's a Bills fan who's maybe 13 years old, and then I get to sit next to somebody who's in their 40s that have been collecting cards for a long time. So it's really, really cool to be a part of that atmosphere. GG Cards and Breaks, led by Josh Gideon, as well as Anthony Campbell, have done an absolutely tremendous job in the way that they go about things. And I got to spend some time there after the event last night, just thanking them for the work that they've done and just the appreciation that I have for everything that they've put together there. The sports card fan in me is so grateful for people like Josh and Anthony and the incredible work of the entire staff at GG Cards and Breaks to just take that little kid inside each and every single one of us and help us to continue to have that connection, right? You never know what you're going to open in a pack. You never know what you're going to find when you're looking through their display case, and it's a ton of fun, and it really just... It's just something that speaks to me. It's been in my life for a long time, and Papa Joe and I can connect on it. My big brother Joey and I can connect. My mom, my dad, my G-Mama, just people, my Uncle Bill up in heaven, and obviously G-Mama up in heaven, but they all connected with me in this sports world and the sports card collecting aspect of it. So GG Cards and Breaks, I literally spent hours there yesterday, and I want to go there after the show today. That's how much I love the place, and it's because of the people. So make sure you head over to GG Cards and Breaks, and they announce to you on social media, and I'll share it, what they have, the new edition, the new product. They got a new product in yesterday. I got excited. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll buy that box. If not that box, I'll buy the other one. A few hours later, I go there for trade night. The boxes were gone. I don't even know how many hours they lasted. So GG Cards and Breaks, when they post it, get yourself over to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. And with that being said, PJ, Papa Joe here with me on Major League Baseball opening day. And we also have some time to talk about the NFL, who's approved some rule changes and sent them over to us here in the media. And I appreciate getting a message from the NFL. There's some rule changes, some things going on. PJ and I brought you into the baseball season by breaking down what it looks like in the American League and the National League as we get set to start everything off today here on 2024 opening day, which will officially begin with the first pitch supposed to happen at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time, with Patrick Sandoval going up against Corbin Burns, the Los Angeles Angels at the Baltimore Orioles, once again today, March 28th. The first game of opening day at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Most games are happening at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time, and then we have 4 night games with 3 games happening a little bit after 10 p.m., including my Arizona Diamondbacks up against the Colorado Rockies. Seattle will host the Boston Red Sox, and Oakland will host the Cleveland Guardians, with the Oakland A's still in Oakland. So with that being stated, PJ, we got some time to shift gears over to the other field, which will bring us into the NFL. What do you want to talk about in the world of the NFL?
Well, I read yesterday or heard yesterday that a very interesting rule change, and it's brought about some conversation, and I think it's pertinent that we can speak about it.
Yeah.
And that's about the not the kickoff.
Yeah.
We all know that the most boring thing in football is to watch a team kick off and don't run the ball back. These guys these days have such huge legs. And Harrison Butler from Kansas City, he can kick 70-yard field goals. So, for him to go and to stick the ball in the end zone and not being run back, that's It's cake right there. That's pie right there. So now with this particular rule, I guess they all have to be on one line and they can't whatever. I don't know what I saw it, but I didn't read it. So I'm thinking to myself that, well, if they're going to do this, that means then we're going to get some kick returns, maybe for touchdowns. And the field where you put the ball in play is maybe going to be the 35 or 40 instead of the 25. So it opens up the offense an awful lot, and I think it's a good rule. I don't know why anyone would want to bitch about that, but anything to make the game more exciting. I know they made a rule about a judgment call on a type of tackle that's being made. You know, now I'm pissed about that because for the last couple of years, they've really stopped the defense from playing actual football. You know, if you want to have them run around with tags on and pull out the tags, that's fine. But you got to let these guys play. I mean, they're not out to hurt anyone. My goodness. But you know, you throw some of these rules out there, and you know, you make the defense stop before they make a play. If they got to think before they make a play, it's going to kill the play. So you know, I don't know.
Yeah, and so I mean the rule summary. The NFL sent us an email here, and the information, it says 2024 approved playing rule summary, and so we have by Detroit amends Rule 15, Section 1, Article 1 to protect a club's ability to challenge a third ruling following one successful challenge. By Competition Committee amends Rule 14, Section 5, Article 2 to allow for an enforcement of a major foul by the offense prior to a change of possession in a situation where there are fouls by both teams, and by Competition Committee amends Rule 12, Section 2 to eliminate a potentially dangerous tackling technique. So, you know, you brought that up, PJ, the fact that we're looking at the NFL rule changes, and the first thing that you spoke about was the kickoff, and I brought it up yesterday, and I'm going to explain it here and put it out here for everybody and what this looks like so that we can discuss it a little bit further as we're here with Papa Joe, here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So taking a look at this kicking situation is the information that we need on this. So I want to break down the rule, so I want to get the verbiage here for you, and so we could talk about the actual rule itself, because the article thing is all well and good, but this is it's a new alignment rule. It represents the most significant on-field rule change for the NFL in many years. It's designed to reverse more than a decade of declining return rates. So we take a look at this rule. Now, it had to pass with 24 of the 32 owners saying yes. They got more than 24. They got 29. There was only 3 teams that said no in this proposal. It was a 29-3 passing from the NFL. And taking a look at it, this is what we're going to have. So during the 2024 season, kickers will continue to kick from the 35-yard line. But the other 10 players on the kickoff team will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. So instead of being with the kicker, they will actually be in front of the kicker. So they're going to have an opportunity to be closer, which I guess prevents them picking up speed running from farther distances. So the kicker's going to be at the 35-yard line where they were last year on kickoff. The rest of the 10 players on the kickoff team are going to be we're going to see them line up at the receiving team. At the receiving team's 40-yard line. So they're actually going to be a lot farther ahead. At least 9 members of the return team will line up in a setup zone. So at least 9 of the 11 members of the return team will be in a setup zone between the 35 and 30-yard lines. Up to 2 returners can line up in a landing zone between the goal line and the 20-yard line. This seems confusing. It's kind of like when they did the arc thing in basketball, and it's like, well, if you take a charge within this place, it's not considered a charge, and are you in the arc, and are you in the cylinder, all that stuff. So looking at this again for the viewpoint of it, kicker 35, they will be at the 35-yard line. The other 10 players will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. So they're going to be substantially ahead of the kicker. And then there's going to be a landing zone and a setup zone. Now, they're hoping that this will create more returns, but essentially what it'll do is it's going to put the defense closer to the return team. It's going to put those trying to tackle you closer downfield to you. But I think the whole point of the kickoffs and the concern of the kickoffs was the gaining speed, running downfield, and going full force into somebody. So if you're setting somebody up closer, if you're setting the kickoff team closer to the return team, then it's more of a chess match of can you break a tackle, but you're not starting to run from a farther distance and taking off there. So they're hoping that this will help them return more. No one other than the kicker and the returner or returners can move until the ball hits the ground. So nobody can move. So that's another part of it. So the defense will be close, like the tacklers will be closer to the returners, but nobody can move until the ball hits the ground or hits a player inside of the landing zone. So yes, those trying to tackle you are going to be closer to you, but they cannot start running downfield. And I think that that's been the issue and the concern with concussions and injuries when it came to kickoff was having somebody take off and start running down almost the full length of the field and then charging at you at top speed. That was the concern of concussions. Now that the kicker and only the returners can move until the ball hits the ground, the fact that everybody else is in place, stationary in this chessboard, so to speak, of the NFL, gives you an opportunity to catch it. As soon as you catch it or it hits the ground, people can start moving. So now they're not taking off at top speed. Hopefully they'll keep you from having a serious injury because of that or taking a big blow, including a concussion. And it's supposed to create more of maybe a scheming effect of being able to see where everybody is. And then once everybody's frozen essentially until the ball hits the ground or it hits a player in the landing zone. So once that happens, now you get to see these chess pieces move around and see who can checkmate. Everybody's playing freeze tag essentially until that ball hits the ground or a player in the landing zone. Then freeze tag is over and people can start running around. So you're going to go after and start to pick up tackles and see who can block well without people charging downfield running full speed. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea in the sense of the fact that only the kicker and the returner can move. So even though your tacklers are going to be closer to you, it's more of a scheming thing and more of everybody being frozen outside the kicker and the returner until that ball is put into play. So, I mean, I think it could be a good thing, and it can really show the special teams coaches that are going to be smart on how they can pick up things. Now, the onside kick, folks, just for people that are worried about that, there are some things that aren't going to change. Touchbacks will be marked at the 30-yard line, and no fair catches will be allowed. So there is something to look at there. In the event a team wants to attempt an onside kick, they have to tell the officials of their intent, and then they would be allowed to use the NFL's traditional formation, but no surprise onside kicks will be allowed. So obviously you have to use the traditional formation because you can't have those trying to get the ball on the onside kick on your team being farther down the field, but you cannot do a surprise onside kick formation. So that takes some scheming out of it. It takes some trickery out of it that you have to go tell an official what's going to be going down. But once you're attempting an onside kick, you can go back to traditional formation and see if you can get that onside kick, which makes perfect sense because you want to have both sides close to the ball in an event like that. So thoughts on it, PJ?
Well, you did well in explaining it. They could have skipped all this stuff by just moving the kickoff back to the 30-yard line. Why didn't they do that? I mean, the object here is to get the ball in the offensive hand to run the ball back. So if you kick from the 30-yard line, not too many guys can kick it 70 yards into the end zone, which means guys are going to take it and run. Of course, that puts into play, again, the possibility of injury because it's what you just said. It's just different of what you just said. If they'd have done that, they could have solved all those problems.
Well, and I think the biggest thing, and I get what you're saying because you want to see a return. They don't want top speed running. They want you stationary running from a shorter distance so that you cannot put a blow into somebody that's going to turn into a potential concussion or an injury that could be more substantial. So they're trying to get teams to return the ball, and they're also trying to prevent the top speed running of players coming downfield that can enact through that speed the feeling of getting hit by a car, as opposed. So is it getting hit by a car in a parking lot that's coming from a shorter distance, or is it from a car that's flying down the freeway that hits you? So I understand their necessity of trying to prevent injuries in that case, and I'm always for the prevention of injuries, especially things that will hurt you down the road outside of football or any sport, because you want to make sure that these gentlemen are going to be healthy beyond football. Another rule that you brought up, PJ, the hip drop tackle is gone. Now, NFL team owners on this past Monday, March 25th, unanimously approved a rule that bans players from using a swivel technique to tackle an opponent. A violation will result in a 15-yard penalty and could result in fines for players. NFL executive Jeff Miller said the hip drop tackle was used 230 times last season and resulted in 15 players missing time with injuries. The NFL Players Association, a.k.a. the NFLPA, opposed the rule. Now, NFL Competition Committee Chairman Rich McKay said this, quote, "It doesn't get used very often, but when it's used, it's incredibly injurious to the runner. The runner is purely defenseless, and I have heard defenders say it before, and I hear them, hey, you're putting me in a really tough spot. You're saying I can't hit here. What do I do? And my response has always been, well, you can't do that, and that's just because the guy you're hitting is defenseless and has no way to protect himself," end quote. So, well, not end quote, quote from that. So we've got to protect him, and you've got to come up with other ways, and you know what? They do, end quote. So the league played a video during the news conference to show specific plays in which the hip drop tackle was used in games with Bengals tight end Drew Sample, Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, Bengals receiver Tyler Boyd, Seattle Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith, and Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill, all being on the receiving end of the now illegal hit. So the hip drop tackle, you cannot do that anymore. This hip drop thing where you have a swivel technique is being taken out of football. PJ, again, I'm all about protecting players. Again, I'm all about getting rid of things that, seem to have caused maybe more serious injuries, more threatening injuries, more substantial injuries. I'm also understanding that as a player on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL, they're making it harder and harder to the point where you said something that I've said in the past is we're not that far away from just having at least quarterbacks wear flags and having, defensive players run up to the quarterback and rip the flag. One of the things that makes absolutely no sense to me, which is really, really difficult to understand, is that if you are a defensive player and you're going after the quarterback in an attempt to sack the quarterback, you can hit the quarterback, but you cannot fall on the quarterback. So you're asking a guy who's probably, he's over 200, could be over 300 pounds. Let's say, for argument's sake, he's 350 pounds. You have a 350-pound defensive lineman running at you. He has to hit the quarterback, and then while he's going down to the ground, cannot fall on the quarterback. So you got to take a guy running at full speed, pushing through the offensive line at 350 pounds, hit the quarterback, and then while he's in midair hitting the quarterback, throw the quarterback out of the way, because if in any way, shape, or form he falls on the quarterback, it's considered a penalty, which makes me feel like, how do you even sack a quarterback anymore? Because if you're running at you got to figure out the angle, you got to figure out your speed, you got to figure out your elusiveness, and if you're able to get to the quarterback before they release the ball, in that time when you hit them, you have to remind yourself that while you're in midair, you have to somehow matrix your body and land somewhere else that's not on top of the quarterback. I understand the safety of it, but getting rid of certain types of tackles and making it hard to sack a quarterback in general, PJ, I'm all about the safety. But when you tell a defensive player in a game where we see it in slow motion, but they're in real time because they don't have instant replay when they're on the field. When these guys are playing this sport, I don't think people fully understand how difficult it is to get to a quarterback, to get to the ball. And if you get to the ball, they have to mentally say, okay, can't do the hip drop, can't swivel. If I'm going to do this, I can't do it that way. If I'm going to sack the quarterback, I have to push myself off of the quarterback in midair, and I have to float like I'm on a magic carpet. I find it more and more difficult for defensive players to play football and to tackle, and it's frustrating me because the things that were legal back in the day, granted, they used to have NFL hit videos. You used to buy bloopers and hits, and you'd watch these insane hits where you'd like hear people's bodies just make these noises that they're not supposed to make. And back in the day, it was considered awesome to see those hits. Now we care more about the protection and the, sanctity of the human body, and making sure that we, try to narrow down the amount of times that there's going to be concussions. But at the same time, if you're a defensive player, how do you sack somebody? And you're not going to be running in the field at top speed at an angle and remind yourself that you have to turn your hips a certain way. I just feel like people are hearing these rules and they're talking about them in a room, they're in a long boardroom at a table having, wraps and different appetizers while they're discussing this in suits, but they don't understand that the guys in the jerseys are on the field in full speed in the run of a game, and it's becoming very, very difficult to tackle and to sack somebody on defense. And I don't think that people in boardrooms are fully understanding how difficult it is and the mechanics of it all for a player to try to do their job and at the same time try to do things that sometimes defy the law of gravity, like a 300-pound guy trying to not fall on the quarterback that they just jumped and grabbed.
It's preposterous, Daniel. It's, you bring up good points, and this is a reaction sport. You got guys that are bigger, faster, and stronger than ever before, and these guys are reacting to something they see. They don't have time to think and react. They got to react. They got to make a play. I go back to the years with Jack Lambert and Mike Singletary and Mike Ditka. These guys would never make it these days if they were playing linebacker. Everything went those several years ago. Even Ray Lewis, he's been retired for 20 years or so. I bet he can't play now by these rules. What do you do? I mean, you got to have the umpires use a fine line here to determine what's right and what's wrong. I do agree with what these guys, the linemen especially, when they land on a quarterback, and they do it on purpose. There's no doubt about it. They do it on purpose. But now you're going to be saddled with a 15-yard penalty and a scoring position for the other team. It's not going to be fun to watch. I hope that they sort it out, and I hope that they're fair about it.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. And the other rule change really quick, PJ, is we're here with Papa Joe on Thursdays on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora weekly, celebrating our time with PJ. The other rule change is this one, the hip drop. You got to know what a hip drop is. You got to watch it. You got to study it. To talk about the kickoff rule, I had to break it down and try to, work it out in my head while I'm trying to build this chessboard for you. This is the rule we're about to talk about. This is very simple and self-explanatory. It is the rule of the challenge flag. If you win both of your challenges currently in the NFL, you have two challenges a game, 2 red flags that a coach can throw out. If you win both of those, you're awarded a 3rd challenge. Well, that rule is changing. In the 2024-25 season, a team will get a 3rd challenge if it's successful on at least one. Doesn't have to be both. So if you are a team that throws down, if you're a head coach and you throw down a challenge flag and you win, you get a 3rd challenge. You don't have to get both right in order to get a 3rd. Now remember, if you don't win a challenge, you lose a timeout. In the world of the challenge flag, If you get 2 right, you'd get a third. Now you only have to get 1 right, which is going to create a lot of opportunities for teams to have a third challenge. Now, if you get both of your challenges right, you do not get a fourth. So knowing that you used to have to get 2 to get a third, now you only have to get 1 challenge of your 2 challenges right to get a third challenge. You do not get a fourth challenge if you get 2 right. So there's only a maximum of 3. You only have to get 1 right now instead of 2. So if your team, your head coach throws out a challenge flag at any time during the game and they get that challenge right, they will have 3. So that is a huge part of it here, because some coaches don't throw out 2 challenge flags in a game. So they're not trying to get 3. They're not trying to lose a timeout. So just so you know, folks, this could really help a team here, and it could help more coaches throw out a challenge flag, knowing that that all you need to do to get a third challenge is to get 1 of 2 right. So if you get your first one right, you got 2 more after that. And it's like you didn't even use your challenge flag. So thoughts on this, PJ? The challenge flag didn't exist years ago, and now it does. And now all a coach has to do with their 2 challenges is get 1 of them right to get a third one, instead of having to get 2 right to get a third one. What are your thoughts on this? Now putting less pressure on a coach to get an extra challenge flag.
It puts the pressure on the referees to make the right call.
Yeah.
So they're, as it is, the stripes are getting killed every game, no matter where they're being played or what team they're playing or who's playing what. The referees, let's face it, several times make bad calls, and this is one reason, I guess, why this is important. But you got to have a PhD to figure this stuff out, Daniel. I'm not sure about that. But
yeah, it's great.
I do have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's some news down here in Jacksonville. Some of the pundits down here are trying to figure out what the Jags are going to do with the draft. And I have one name to throw out to you, and you can do your research if you want to, but several of the men, no ladies, several of the men have brought up this name, Terrion Arnold, the quarterback from Bama. Now, they're looking for Jaguar to get the 17th pick for this guy. He may not last that long, but it's a name that I had to look up, and I checked it out. I mean, the guy's for real, obviously. Playing for Alabama, you got to be for real. And there's another cornerback too. It's Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Both of these guys are in the Jaguars' eyes with the 17th pick. So we'll see where that goes. And when we were doing this a couple of weeks ago, we noticed that there was only one cornerback that was signed or re-signed. And that was Dan Darby, the quarterback. Of course, one cornerback left to go to another team. So this is interesting.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I had said that they need help on the defensive line and they need help in their secondary. I think the linebackers, the edge guys, are in good shape, but there needs to be some assistance there in the back line, and there needs to be some work there on the defensive line. And they've tried to make moves in both of those respects here, which is good to see. Those issues that I've really been focusing on, the Jaguars have focused on in the offseason. So, with their draft pick being farther back here, it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do. Will they take the best available is another thing to look at. Bill Cooks wrote into us. He said, I want to read this really quick. A big shout out to the Cook family. Thank you for your support. As always, I appreciate you very much. And Bill Cook is the one that gave me that Sam Adams glass that's behind me here over my shoulder, that mug that's with the D-backs thing. So thank you to Bill for that. Bill said, I don't mind the extra challenge flag. Shouldn't be denied a good play or bad call because of poor officiating. All reviews should come from some form of NFL official headquarters watching. Coaches shouldn't have to worry about a poor call. Amen. And he said, will the new kickoff rules drive more challenges? I have to believe it will, and then we shall see. We'll see where we end up here. Hopefully the kickoff rules will mean more kickoffs, and hopefully the challenge rule will mean more accountability on the official side to not have to keep awarding third challenges to teams. So we'll see where that ends up. And the hip drop rule, ultimately, hopefully everything will bring about more safety is what we're looking at here in the NFL with these rule changes here as we talk about it on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with Papa Joe, and we appreciate you being here as always. You know, PJ, the Jaguars, to get back to them for a second, like I said, defensive line, offensive line, secondary, that's where they need to be looking. And at some point in this draft, they should look at potentially picking up another wide receiver. You know, they should really look at wide receiver. They have their quarterbacks. They don't need to do that. I think Tank Bigsby and keeping Dearness Johnson on the roster and obviously having Travis Etienne III, you don't need a running back. I think they have to look to wide receivers. I think that they have to look to build that up. And I think the big, and you can build that later in the draft. I think for me, what I want to see Jacksonville do is offensive line, defensive line, secondary. They're all kind of on, I would say offensive line is the number one priority. I would say defensive line is number two, secondary, and then wide receiver. That's what I would look at if I were them. And I think they have a lot of talent, but I think that they lack depth and they lack security on the offensive and defensive line. And I think that they need more. Andre Sisco out of Syracuse has been a great safety for them. You know, and I think that they need Tyson Campbell at corner. They need more help at corner. They need to have a guy. I mean, if where they're picking here later on in the first round, if a corner falls to them that's a really, really good corner, then they should look at going there. I think that they desperately need offensive line help, but I also don't think that they have a true corner that they can lean on in Jacksonville right now. So I think the best available offensive lineman or cornerback in the first round, and then figure out some more stuff with the secondary, the defensive line, the offensive line, and work in a couple wide receivers in the draft is the way for me to go, in my opinion, right now, thinking about Jacksonville.
All right, bud.
So that coming from PJ and me. Happy opening day, a few hours away. Enjoy your games. Papa Joe is going to call me and put me on FaceTime so I can watch all the games off of his television. That's what we're going to do.
Play ball.
Appreciate you, PJ. I'll talk with you soon. All right, take care. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets life worldwide on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. You can also find Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with a bunch of shows that have just been added this week to our many ways of connecting with us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Podchaser.com. And you can also find us on Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do on any one of these networks is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our incredible partners. We ask you to visit them and support them here in our community. Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, the place that you should be going to build your Easter baskets for the ones that you love. And so make sure you head out there today. GG Cards and Breaks, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, and Mother's Cupboard. Make sure you reach out to all of them and let them know that Wake Up Call sent you, or you can say DT sent me your way. And of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins on Wednesdays during Dolphin Time, first and third Wednesday of each month, with AD and DT, featuring Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Today we gave you an under-promise, over-deliver, I should say, this week by bringing you a Dolphin Dive and an AD and DT. Dolphin Dive coming you the second and fourth Wednesday, traditionally, of each month at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, featuring student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can find all of our content with the Dolphins by simply going to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out our Lemoyne playlist on our YouTube channel. You can also find the Dolphins on the homepage of wakeupcalldt.com, and you can find them by going to the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com and make sure you go to Lemoyne today to Dick Rockwell Field to see the return of Division I baseball to campus with the first home game of their return to Division I season for the Lemoyne Dolphins baseball program led by Scott Cassidy. Their first home game in the return to Division I happens today, this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at Dick Rockwell Field. As always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find the Bobcats in what we call the Bobcat Buzz, happening every single month. Student athletes, coaches, and administration joining us throughout the year from men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and esports, telling the story of the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse that are located right there on James Street in Syracuse, New York. It is an incredible experience and a very unique experience to be at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse with an opportunity to provide scholarships and to the world of small colleges and to get you into school if you haven't finished or if you never started, to have an opportunity to get your degree at any age and have the opportunity, if you have eligibility, to return to a sport you love or play the sport that you love for the first time competitively in that respect. So a really great opportunity in a very unique way comes from a fantastic place that I appreciate calling one of my homes. Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. The Bobcat Buzz is found by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe and the notification bell. You can also find our BSC Syracuse playlist on our YouTube channel, and you can find the Bobcats on the homepage of wakeupcalldt.com, as well as by going to the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. As always, you can find more information on syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are the newest exclusive multimedia marketing partner with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You'll find the Bearcats every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time during what we call Bearcat Time. That Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, will feature the opportunity for you to hear from Gene Marshall each month, the athletics director at Binghamton University, in what we call Moments with Marshall. The other Tuesdays throughout each month will be spread throughout student athletes, coaches, and administration of multiple sports, as we call it, the Bearcat Break Room, getting some time in the break room to chat with these student athletes, coaches, and administration at Binghamton University. You can find all of our content with Binghamton on our youtube.com/wakeupcalldt site. You can go to our YouTube channel there. That's youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Once you go there, click subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also see our playlist for the Binghamton University Bearcats right there on our YouTube channel. You can find the Bearcats on the homepage of wakeupcalldt.com, as well as finding the Bearcats on underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank the wonderful, wonderful time that I always get to spend with one of the people I respect most on this planet, and that being Bob Beretta, athletics director at Lemoyne College. So many thanks to Bob for all that he does, and much appreciation to him and to Lemoyne in entrusting me to tell their story in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership across all of their athletic programs for the Dolphins. So thank you to Bob for spending some time today and some bonus content with Lemoyne. And thank you, as always, to Papa Joe for our Thursday time. And happy opening day. I want to shout out, I promised him I would, Joe Yeager. He got me this giant Corbin Carroll rookie card here. It's my first giant card ever. And so he brought this into GG Cards and Breaks. And he came into trade night last night, and he's like, "Are you the guy? Are you, he's like, what's your last name?" I said, "Tortora." He goes, "Yeah." He's like, "I know you're a Diamondbacks fan," and he knows that I work with GG Cards and Breaks, and obviously we promote them in partnership. So he was like, "Yeah," he goes, "I get Diamondbacks cards, and I come in here, and I give them to the guys." He said, "I left some of them at the register for you tonight, so just go up and get those." But he's like, "When I get Diamondback stuff, I know who you are. I know that you work with GG Cards and Breaks, and I bring in stuff for you. He goes, I'm the guy that does that. I'm the guy that left you the big card. And he left me stuff last night too, doing things out of the goodness of his heart. I was a total stranger to him. We literally met for the first time yesterday. So I want to shout out Joe Yeager for being awesome, for first and foremost supporting GG Cards and Breaks, and for supporting what I do in connection with them, and for paying it forward and out of the goodness of his heart, doing something for a stranger he doesn't have to do. Like just saying, hey, you're a Diamondbacks fan. I got Diamondbacks cards, and he brought them over to me, and they're really nice cards. So thank you for the cards last night, Joe. Thank you for my giant card that sits right over my shoulder here in the studio here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And thanks for just being a nice person and coming and introducing yourself. So, Joe Yeager, big time shout out to you. And if more people paid it forward and did good deeds for total strangers like you, the world would be a totally different place in a positive way. So, shout out to the Joe Yeagers of the world doing nice things for people they don't even know. God bless for that. Happy opening day of baseball. It is truly and officially Snakes Alive. I'll talk with you all soon, folks. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Go on our X and make sure to follow us at Call DT. Big time shout out. And we got a message here. Daniel Jones' stats are as good as Trevor's. Is he the guy? Is Daniel Jones the guy? You know, we'll see, Bill. We'll see. I covered Daniel Jones in college and when he was at Duke, and I consider David Cutcliffe, the former coach there, to be somewhat of a quarterback guru, a little whisperer there. We'll see. I mean, I think the Giants could move from Daniel Jones. I really do. You know, I think Daniel Jones, him and Saquon Barkley, when you talk about like proving yourselves at a time where, you know, they were trying to figure things out, right? They were trying to figure out, are we going to keep these guys? What are we going to do with them? I mean, Daniel Jones bet on himself, and it worked at that time. And then we also saw, you know, Saquon Barkley bet on himself and see that work with him being under the tutelage of a good friend of mine, DeAndre Smith, who used to be the running backs coach at Syracuse, so under Scott Schaefer. I mean, looking at the Giants right now, they got the 6th pick. They could go quarterback. I mean, we'll see. We'll see who's still available. They could go Marvin Harrison Jr. for goodness sakes. So I think the Giants really have to take a good hard look at Daniel Jones and take a look at his numbers. You know, I mean, you asked the question, so before we round things out, I want to answer that question. To go back and look at Daniel Jones's stats. Daniel Jones, by the way, has been in the league longer than you might have think he's been in the league. So time flies, folks. He's been in the league for 5 seasons. So we look at this and, you know, he started back in 2019. I mean, he's been asked to be the guy for a while. As a rookie, he had 3,027 yards passing, 61.9% completion percentage, and he had 24 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. That's a good first year in the NFL. Then we look at the next year, 62.5% completion percentage, 2,943 yards, 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Not great. Also put into account here, not all this is his fault. The Giants have had an offensive line problem for a long time, and it's something that I say about Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence as well. The 3rd season that he had, he 64.3% completion percentage, 2,428 yards, playing in less games. He only played in 11 games as opposed to 13 in year 1 and 14 in year 2, 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Then in 2022-23, he played in all 16 games, and he had 67.2% completion percentage. So this is the first season he played in 16 games, the first season he started in 16 games, and he had the best completion percentage playing in more games. And I always look at stats like that. The more time that person's on the field, the court, or the pool, or the track of life, how are they performing? If their numbers are going up in a positive way, the more they're passing, the more they're playing, that's huge. Because that's saying they're passing more, they're having more attempts, they're playing in more games, and they're being more successful. 472 passes is the most passes that he ever threw, speaking of Daniel Jones, and he had a 67.2% completion percentage, the most yards he's ever had, 3,205 in the NFL, 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and so back-to-back seasons with single-digit interceptions. And then last year he got hurt. He only played in 6 games, and he had a 67.5% completion percentage, so his completion percent stayed at 67% at least. He had 909 yards in 6 games, 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So I don't think Daniel Jones' numbers are that bad. I really don't. I mean, I understand that they have the 6th pick and, people get excited about quarterbacks, but I don't think Daniel Jones is statistically looking like he's not a good quarterback. I think people look at the wins and say, you can't keep this guy. But if you look at the numbers, you're like, he's not bad, and he's getting better the longer he's been in the NFL. Now, looking at Trevor Lawrence's numbers in 3 seasons in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence as a rookie in 2021-22, 59.6% completion percentage, 3,641 passing yards, 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. In 2022-23, now granted, he played in all 17 games and started in all 17 games in those first 2 seasons. His second season, 4,113 yards, 66.3% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Last season, in 16 games, 16 started because he was out 1 game, even though he probably should have been out the last 4 weeks of the season, potentially with a shoulder/high ankle injury. 65.6% completion percentage, so he stayed right there with his completion percentage from the year before pretty much. Over 4,000 yards again with 4,016, 21 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. I don't think his numbers are bad either. I'm not going to... Now, when you're a rookie in the NFL, if your completion percentage is under 60% and you're throwing a bunch of interceptions, more interceptions than touchdowns, Peyton Manning did the same thing. I'm not holding it against Trevor Lawrence. The second season, strong season, really great season. And then last season, it was okay. But granted, those 14 interceptions, remember, he was injured and he was playing and the ball was sailing in a way that is atypical, I think, of Trevor Lawrence. And again, the offensive line doesn't do him any favors in Jacksonville when they have all these injuries and they're trying to find a third-string left tackle to come and fill in spot because Cam Robinson got suspended and because other guys got injured and Walker Little had to move around to play tackle and guard last season. So again, some of these numbers are not Trevor Lawrence's fault. And the other side of it is he's 3 years into the NFL and he's had a really strong season. He's got almost 12,000 yards in 3 seasons. He's averaging around 64% completion percentage and he's got 58 touchdowns to 39 interceptions. But you look at his interceptions over the past 2 seasons is 22 over 2 years, where the first season was almost a 20 itself at 17. So the people that ask me, do I think that Trevor Lawrence is done? Do I think that Trevor Lawrence should not be the quarterback of the Jaguars? I feel like those people are not educated when they ask that question. I understand that it's what have you done for me lately, but I don't necessarily agree with the play calling with Jacksonville right now. I don't like the situation with offensive line. I thought last year they had the most depth they've ever had at all 5 positions on the line, and then they let a bunch of guys go. So, do I think that the offensive line was a problem? Yes. Do I think the play calling with Press Taylor was a problem? Yes. Do I think they utilized Calvin Ridley in the best way possible? No. And do I think Trevor Lawrence was injured? Yeah. So I can't put any of that on Trevor. Now, Bill said this isn't a bash on Trevor, just a question. Great sophomore season in the NFL. Yeah, no, Bill, I don't think you were bashing him at all. I think you were saying, Daniel Jones, with his numbers being similar, like you said, to Trevor, yeah, I think the point you were making, Bill, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the point you were making is that if Trevor is in such high regard with some people, why is Daniel Jones in such a low regard? I think that's the point you were making. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But, you caused me to go and look at Daniel Jones's numbers, and you caused me to realize that Daniel Jones's numbers are not bad. They're really not that bad. So I do think that that's something to pay attention to, and I appreciate the question because it provoked me to learn something. And I appreciate the question because it provoked me to talk about, and that is what Bill was saying. So, yeah, I appreciate that, Bill. And I'm happy we're on the same page. And, yeah, with Trevor, I think it's stupid. I think anybody that wants Trevor Lawrence to leave Jacksonville, I would not want to be my general manager. I'm happy that those people are not running the Jaguars. So, like, that's what I'll say. But with that being said, I do want to remind you all to vote in our polls on X, the former Twitter. I put up polls all the time, pretty much weekly or at least every 2 weeks. Make sure you vote. We got 5 polls up right now. So do you have MLB TV? Do you have that subscription to watch every game? I want to know if you do or you don't, because I kind of want to see where that's at. And I'm kind of looking into it myself. Right now, 66.7% of you said you don't have MLB TV, and 33.3% said you do. There's 4 games going on to start off the Sweet 16 tonight in the return of the 2024 NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Tournament. We cover it in what's called The Drive, proudly presented by Great Lakes Honda City, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And I'm not going to tell you about it without having that engine rev up a little bit, so let's let that happen. Here on The Drive on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and my engine needs to rev itself up here, so let's make sure we get that going here. There we go. So The Drive, proudly presented by Great Lakes Honda City. Head out to Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard today in Liverpool, New York. Let them know that DT sent you, or you could say Wake Up Call sent you. In The Drive, which drives you through the entire tournament on the men's and women's side, we have polls up here today for the men's Sweet 16, 4 games going on, and we've already gotten votes coming in. Go to X, follow me there at CallDT. That's CALLDT. You'll find me there, and you can let me know what you think. Who will win between the Clemson Tigers and the Arizona Wildcats? You can also, right now, the vote is in favor of Clemson, but it's pretty close. Who's going to win between UConn and San Diego State? We had an early UConn, and now the majority of you, over 70% of you, have picked San Diego State. Interesting. North Carolina has been chosen over Alabama so far, 62.5% to 0.5% in that. And between Iowa State and Illinois, you're picking Iowa State 71.4% to 28.6%. Vote in our polls now exclusively on X. That's at CallDT. Follow me there and vote in our polls. I want to know what you're thinking about MLB TV. Do you have the subscription? And who you're picking for the quattro of games going on here. 4 games for the Sweet 16 in Division I men's basketball in the NCAA tournament. And you can follow along in The Drive, proudly presented by Great Lakes Honda City right here on Wake Up Call. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Thanks to Bob Beretta. Thank you to Papa Joe. Thank you to you for watching and listening. Thank you to my Diamondbacks for being awesome. Shout out to Ma and Pa's for being the snack capital. Go there and get your Easter basket done right. They got new freeze-dried candy, which is fantastic, and I got some of it in my house. Bill says UConn's going to win it all. Well, the step toward it starts tonight. We'll have some fun with it, and I'll talk with you soon.